All right. Welcome everybody. And I want to introduce Jayse. He's here from the from Conscious Crypto Academy and Cosmic Origins. You've probably seen him on some shows out there. Very, very well known and helped a lot of people, including me, with getting started with crypto and understanding it, which was very confusing for me. And so if any words like altcoin, right? Or meme coins or airdrops, XRP, trust lines, blockchain, staking, leverage, the Ripple network,
Oh,
any of these things that you hear all the time and you just have no idea what they are, but you wish you did and you want to take part, but you just don't know how. He's just a great resource. And
yeah.
it's something that really helped us move forward in our finances as well to have move into a different space. And his program is really and it's weird to say, but it's from the heart space. It's
Yeah.
not so much from the head space of just making money. It truly is being helping with your finances, but it's to set you free, not to, not for you to go and just accumulate. So he's just really a wealth of knowledge, and he has a 5-step program in his crypto academy, and he'll go through it. And so, Jayse, welcome. So if you'd like to say hi and get some big introductory words, that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate having me on. Yeah, crypto is a really hot and important topic right now. And, not just like you said, not just because it's about money, but because it's about the transfer of sovereignty back to the people, really. And, you know, I think when it comes to our foundational freedoms and kind of what the founding fathers intended in the United States, at least for us to have, freedom of speech is one of the paramount freedoms that a lot of our other freedoms are built on, but a lot of people don't really consider freedom of finance as being
Mhm.
near equally as important. And I think we've seen that operate in the past couple of years. There's been a couple kind of paramount examples of that, like the Canadian trucker rally, for instance, where people had their bank account shut down as they were going to try to exercise their freedom of speech. And
Yeah.
so we've seen where, needing financial freedom and financial sovereignty away from the oppressive forces is really important right now to, kind of living our life in the way that I think we're meant to live in as sovereign individuals.
Yeah,
So,
and that's a
yeah,
good point you bring up because people don't realize that they have already done that. Like with the Canadian trunkers, they already froze accounts just from the people from the businesses bringing food and water
Yeah.
to them or doing a GoFundMe. They got their accounts and they were in
yeah,
the protest. So I mean, yeah, it's 100% correct, but people look
Yeah.
right past that, and it's really important to see. So
Yeah.
it's a great point.
Well, first of all, I found you through your beautiful wife, Alexis from Ascension Diaries. And she was talking about kind of your programs and what you do and everything. And so I brought it to him immediately and, we signed up and everything. So I have a lot of gratitude to you for teaching us and showing us kind of that whole space and what it can do. And you're right. The example that you gave is a perfect example of exactly what it can look like if you don't look into these things. Because I think that there's a lot of people, especially our age,
Mhm.
who can feel a little
Yeah.
overwhelmed with this new modality and money to move into this. But I think it's really good to be well-rounded and to kind of know. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say. And I know from listening to you on a journey to truth and stuff talking about these things that like Alexis, your beautiful wife, you're going to bring this whole new perspective that's like so much deeper than the first layer thing. So thank you for joining us. I'm so excited that you're here.
yeah, yeah. It's gonna be a fun convo.
Yeah,
Thank
Yeah.
you
and
for having me
so
on.
we were kind of I want to get real serious for just the
Oh,
first question. So I hope it don't throw you back a little bit because
Let's do it.
what do you think? This is rough to even ask, babe. What do you think about the new Olympic athletes that do breakdancing, specifically Australia's Ray Gunn,
oh,
and how amazing she is as an athlete in the Olympics?
Oh my gosh, yeah, that is a pretty serious question. It's pretty outstanding. I mean, I think maybe they're even developing a new sport with what they're doing there altogether, separate from
Yes.
breakdancing. It's more like fish out of water style breakdancing,
That's right.
something like that.
I just had a, I saw it out there. I saw it on your Instagram, and I was just showing her, and I was hysterical. I said, I gotta ask him about it because I think that,
I saw comedians say that that person would make a great Secret Service agent for Donald Trump because
yeah,
of the
that's right.
resemblance between what happened on that day and the flailing around and
Oh,
the
Yeah.
yeah.
confusion, and there were some
Uh,
similarities there.
It's crazy. I like to call them athletes. The athletes are getting, it's crazy. But anyway, all right. I just had to throw that in there.
Yeah,
It
Okay.
good
had to
question.
start that way. If Johnny's here, it's going to be a little. All right. So, you know what I wanted to ask you about was kind of like your journey, your personal journey, and how it relates to kind of like your awakening. If you can kind of just tell us how you found yourself in this space.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's I always love talking about that because I've only been into crypto for the last 4 years-ish since 2020, but I've had a whole awakening that led me to that. So for me, there were a lot of things as a kid that my parents told me later that looking back, I'm like, oh, I was waking up even as a kid, but I didn't really realize it. Like, I would ask really deep questions about like God, and my parents would give me the, we know everything because we're your parents, and I'd hit them with the, well, what is God? And like, is, all these questions they couldn't really give a tangible answer to. But I would say that my like more conscious awakening journey started to occur when I was in college. I was going into college mostly atheist. Like I grew up agnostic. I didn't have any kind of religious or spiritual influences in my life, really. My dad was pretty psychic, but other than that, we didn't have any kind of, spiritual practice or anything like that. So going into college, I was pretty much atheist, scientific minded. I was going into aerospace engineering because I felt really called to space. And later I kind of figured out why, it was that that was my calling. And what really started to wake me up was learning about the black budget space programs, the secret space programs. I had professors that would, well, one professor in particular who was one of the big guys in the department, and he was the father of the F-22 fighter jet. So he was like the main project manager for that.
Wow.
And he was known as the father of it. And so he would often play these like conspiracy theory style videos for people in his classes of like Project Aurora, like TR3B, Flying Triangle kind of things. And I never had classes with this guy directly, but I interacted with him, and my friends would tell me about these experiences because they knew I was into this stuff.
Mhm.
And he also had um, multiple other projects that he managed, like probably dozens and dozens over at Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, which is where they develop that stuff. That's where a lot of the advanced propulsion techs come from. And
Mhm.
he had these five black stones on his desk
Wow.
next to all these models of other projects that he modeled. So he had a little F-22, a little, planes and spacecraft, and then he had these five black rocks. And they were to represent the classified projects from the 1970s that he had overseen, that he had managed, but that he still was not allowed to talk about. So he was very much trying to like seed this into his students' consciousness. But not many people really looked too deeply into it. But for me, it was like really fascinating.
Yeah.
And right around that time, I had also watched Dr. Stephen Greer's, I think it was called Undisclosed or something like that, with his Disclosure Project. It was his first big documentary. And that was just kind of a big wake up call to like, okay, there really is stuff out there that is beyond what we think can even exist. And that kind of catapulted my awakening journey. And being in college, I started experimenting with psychedelics, and that was a big thing for then kind of having the spiritual side balanced with the mental, intellectual side of
Mhm.
what I was learning. So I was aware of these programs, and then I had a really profound experience on trying DMT,
Oh, yeah.
which is the chemical that we think is produced in our pineal gland when we dream and when we die. And I had a really deep experience where basically I had died. It's what people, I guess, would call ego death. But like in the moment, I literally felt like I had died and my soul left my body. And that was like kind of my third eye awakening moment. And then, experienced trips with mushrooms and other plant medicines and things like that that were showing me like how there was this consciousness field and there was this whole other reality in the spirit realm that was overlaid with, the physical realm.
Mm.
And so that kind of led me to then realizing that we weren't the only beings in existence, that there were other beings that we could call ETs or galactics or angels or whatever kind of label we want to put on them.
Mhm.
And I then later had a second profound DMT experience where I went into it with the intention this time. The first time I had no intention. It was just like, my friend was like, hey, try this. And I was like, okay. The second time I did it, I was more in my spiritual awareness. And so I went into it with prayer and with intention to have communion with my higher self, basically. And so when I did that, I had the most it's hard to describe in words, but it just felt like the most warm, loving hug and embrace
Wow.
from that energy. And it felt like my soul family, like my higher self, just giving me this hey, welcome home, like good to have you back, but also you got to go back to Earth. Like good that you popped in for a visit, but like we got to send you back.
Aw.
And and then around that same time period, I had discovered like a David Wilcock and Corey Good, Cosmic Disclosure. I was watching a lot of that. And that led me to the Law of One material, which ended up being the most profound piece of literature and, spiritual channelings that I had really ever come across. Are you guys familiar with the Law of One? Okay. Nice. Yeah. So like that to this day, that still is like kind of like my Bible in a way. Like I think there's value in a lot of different spiritual works, but that's the one that I come back to the most and that feels the most familiar to me. And then those during those couple years, I felt like I was very much in my kind of upper chakras, like, third eye, crown chakra. And in the time period after that, I had this kind of transitionary period, which is where I ended up meeting Alexis, my wife. I had just gone to China and Thailand right before meeting her, and then ended up flying up to where she was, and we went on a huge road trip and had this whole like adventure. And then we settled back down here and settled in Sedona.
Mm.
And for the few years that we were in Sedona was a major activation where I was called kind of back into my body and like back into my lower chakras in the sense of like I was going through a lot of kind of chronic health issues and like things that brought me, kind of out of that upper, in the clouds kind of headspace down to like a more grounded space. And I realized I was meant to kind of go back and learn some of these lessons that I had kind of glossed over in terms of my health and my financial health and all this stuff. And so that's what ended up bringing me to crypto is it through friends of friends. I had heard about XRP. Somebody told me about XRP. And, there's also the whole Q thing that was going on during this time, which I was there from like the third day of posting. I was watching that and like seeing it all happen in real time and being like, wow, like I already know all this stuff to be true. It's pretty crazy that this is being posted now. Like the world is now learning about this on a larger scale. And I let's see, where was I going with that? I somebody told me about XRP, and at that point, I was pretty opposed to crypto because I'd only really been exposed to Bitcoin and Ethereum in terms of like conversations.
Yeah.
Those are the most
Like
popular
that's would be
cryptos.
yeah.
Yeah, right. Like those are the ones most people hear about
Mhm.
first, and they just didn't resonate with me. Like it didn't feel right to me. I didn't feel called to investing in them. I kind of blanketed all crypto as being the new world order currency because I didn't really have any knowledge beyond that.
Right.
So somebody told me about XRP. They told me it was at 17 cents. So that's where that, Q synchronicity came in. And that was one of those numbers where I was like, anytime I see the number 17, I'm going to listen.
Lean
Like the
in a little
universe.
again.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're trying to tell me something. So I end up spending the next several months. This was like end of 2019, beginning of 2020, leading into COVID. And I was researching and researching. And then, COVID hit. And all the markets went down. You probably remember, like everything crashed, including crypto. And I decided, okay, this is a good time to, buy some XRP. So I bought
Fire
some.
sale.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
right.
Yeah. And it was a great, I mean, it was a great time because I basically scooped up what I could at the bottom of the market. And then over the next year, the markets recovered and I was able to make a decent amount of money. And so I, was feeling that result and then doing the research on what was going on. And I came to realize, oh, wow, like there's so much more to this crypto space than I had previously realized. It's actually more so about this transfer of wealth that's happening and this energetic shift that's taking place that I've kind of likened to like the pyramid flipping upside down. So this transfer of wealth, I see it as like, the money that has been locked up in a place of stagnation for so long with groups and individuals and bloodline families and that kind of thing who have hoarded the wealth was now going to be circulated through this transfer of wealth through cryptocurrency.
I love that.
And yeah,
Yeah,
that's
like
kind
that
of
creates a great visual in your head too
Yeah,
when you do
yeah.
it. Yeah, that's
And
interesting.
like the flipping of the pyramid, I think is like a momentary thing because we don't necessarily want an upside down
Upside
pyramid
down.
either. I think it'll eventually, visually come out to more like a circle
yeah,
of, I see the economy as kind of being a vortex. So it should be something flowing, right? Like the
yeah.
vortex within our hearts and our brains and our electromagnetic field and our auras. And it's like this vortex had all these parasites in it. And this was kind of the analogy I was realizing going through my own health journey too, like cleansing parasites and like doing this kind of thing. And I was like, okay, these parasites are going to be removed from this force field, from this vortex that is the economy. And that's going to allow things to flow more freely. And it's going to liberate people to where, people won't be stuck if they don't want to be in a 9 to 5 job that they don't like that is preventing them from kind of seeking the deeper spiritual truths of life. And so that's kind of
I love
how
that.
it comes all full circle.
I love that. I love that analogy that you gave too. And you're right, parasites, that's so fitting to exactly what it was. And when you're talking about your journey and kind of going into that, because we were wondering like what was it for you that was kind of like your pivotal moment that would spark your interest in crypto? And was it just kind of like the stuff that was going on in the world and that accumulation? Is that kind of like
It's like I had this growing curiosity of it, but then the moment when that person was like, hey, check out this asset called XRP, it's at 17 cents, that something in my beingness was just like, yes, like there is, you just feel that full body
Mhm.
truth sometimes when people tell
yeah.
you something. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna start researching this more. And then the more that I looked into it, the more that the puzzle pieces were fitting together.
He came to me, he had been talking to his friend about Bitcoin when it
Yeah.
first was going, it was like what, 2 grand or something at the time, or
Yeah.
1700
Yeah.
or
It was like
something.
back in 2000, like 14 or 13,
Mm.
something
Yeah,
like
something
that.
like that. And
And
I was like, no, so was his friend.
my friend's he was young. I hired him at the bank I used to work at, and he's a young kid, really good with technology. And I was unsure of even what it was, but I all I know was that it was very low. I couldn't
Mm.
explain it to you if it to save my life. And
Yeah.
but I told him, I said, did you ever look into this? Why don't we like pitch in and let's get what we can? We can't get hurt falling out of a basement window. I mean, let's try it. And he was like, no, it's just and I forgot what explanation he used. And anyway, but I still bother him about it now. But it would have been, I mean, that would have been
I think it was like
huge.
1700 or something. And then
Yeah, it was
when you
low.
talked to him about it again later, you saw it was like at 2000 something. It was like 20, I don't know,
Yeah, it was
21 or
bad.
27. It was still really low. And he was giving him stuff about that. But I was like so adamantly against.
And the crazy thing is that I started giving him crap about it again when I got it at when it was at 26,000, and he was going like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "What's wrong with me?" And then I gave him shit about it again when it was up to 73,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so so I was like, but it was just an incredible ride. But yeah,
Yeah.
even back then, and like she said, that people our age that we have like 1 foot. We didn't grow up with technology and the
Yeah.
Mhm.
internet. It was before that, right before the cell phones came out. Then you had like the real brick cell phones that were like this big,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then it got smaller and smaller. But that type of technology, when I was doing, when I was going through your course and going through everything, what kept hitting me right away was I would love to do this, like, and kind of market it, like,
Mhm.
to people who are in my age group and older, thinking they cannot do it. Because in some of which, by the way, he has weekly coaching calls, which are really good and really, really specific. But I saw, in different countries as well. And I saw some of the people that were my age and a little bit older that were on there, and they were having trouble, not with the concept, but like with like different technological issues of it.
Yeah,
Like, why
that's
would this? I don't understand why we have to. And how the guys explain everything,
Mhm.
they were getting it. But I was like, what a big swath of the population out there probably could
yeah.
use the help. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the technicals can be really intimidating to people of every age range because it is a new technology. It is new kind of concepts to wrap your money to wrap
Yeah,
your head
money
around how money works and to wrap your money around.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of fear too that gets put out there through various sources about like the CBDCs, which
Mhm.
are the central banking digital currencies. And a lot of people confuse the two. They think that crypto and these CBDCs are one and the same. But one of the nice things that's, with Trump endorsing crypto recently is I think he's kind of clarified that because he's been saying we will not have CBDCs. If I become president again, we'll make sure CBDCs are illegal. And then he's backing crypto. So people, I think, are starting to see the difference between the two.
Are you
Yeah.
finding that a lot of the people that come to you, are they more like starseed awakened type people, or that's who you're finding? And is there
Yes,
any discrepancy in like the age kind of a thing, or it's just all walks of life?
pretty much all walks of life. I would say, yeah, it's pretty even between like the youngest people that I've worked with have been as young as 18, 19 years old.
Okay.
Some people have, had me work with like their 17-year-old kids, but for people that are coming into the program, most are in their early 20s to their 50s, 60s. We've had people as old as their late 70s. So it's really been like across the
That's
board.
that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
That's good to see.
I
And it is Starseeds. It is like
did yeah.
it like 99% of people, if not everybody, has not only been, that kind of soul and energy, but they've had this calling to it, which is what I found so profound that I knew about myself. Like I could feel the calling to it in the beginning, and that's what I followed. But then I started to see this pattern of other people telling me that they had dreams of like an ET visiting them saying, you need to invest in XRP, or they had a vision, you need to invest in XRP, or whatever it was, the strong feeling, like everyone felt this guidance. And then almost everybody also had some kind of mission or plan that they knew they needed to do with the money. And
Mhm.
I think that is the energetic side of this work, is that it's going to the people who have faith in not in crypto but in God, and who are listening to God
Mhm.
and like God speaking to them. And then the people who have missions from their starseed missions or whatever it be, that they're here to manifest, and that these funds will be the way that so many of these missions, whether they be cities of light or schools or healing services, like whatever the kind of next level of consciousness of these various different systems are that people are feeling called to bring into the reality, which is just so cool.
That
Yeah.
is so cool. Kind of gives you a different level
Oh,
of
yeah.
what we can do.
Especially
Yeah.
now that you start to see, like there was an article, Wells Fargo, right, is said they're going to start to accept XRP for loan payments and credit card payments.
I think I saw that with Chase. Did Wells Fargo say that too?
Yeah, they are
Okay.
one of my
Yeah.
customers actually, because I sell precious metal.
Uh-huh.
And he sent me an article off of Newsbreak,
Mm.
and it's that's what it was. Is Wells Fargo is starting to come around,
Nice.
and they put that in. But Chase was the initially the
Yeah.
first to do that. But I think once you see the big banks start to do some things like that, and then China has a big bank that's having trouble. You were talking about
Mm.
that. Once people see that and they see, that's when they can start to see that and get a little more education on how crypto works and what it's about.
Mhm.
And the CBDC and crypto, they know that's just actually the antithesis of each other. And
Yes.
so when they can put the two and two together, because they still aren't meshing it, I think that's when I think a real big shift is going to come
Mhm.
in the space. Do you
Yeah.
see you do see it moving at your, you're in that do you see like that is that coming yet?
Yeah, like the mass adoption with the banks and everything. Yeah, I think most likely XRP in particular is gearing up to be the world bridge asset or even possibly the world reserve asset, either in a direct or indirect way. And that's where like Bitcoin, for example,
Mhm.
a lot of people will say Bitcoin is the new gold. Like a lot of, not everybody, but a lot of Bitcoin people would say, you don't need gold. We got Bitcoin.
Right.
Gold is, useless now.
Mhm.
And I think, you probably agree that's kind of silly, right? Like precious metals definitely still have their value
Yeah.
for various purposes.
Mhm.
And so what I really like about XRP and what it's doing energetically is that it's connecting all these different forms of value across the world. So let me give some technological context for this for viewers that maybe don't understand. What makes XRP different than Bitcoin is one, its speed, two, its scalability, and three, its fees or lack thereof. So with Bitcoin and Ethereum both, they are relatively very slow. Bitcoin can only do like 5 transactions per second. I think Visa does like 1,500 or something in the neighborhood of that. So like already right now, Bitcoin transactions will take like a half an hour to an hour, sometimes more to go through, which doesn't work when you're at the grocery store or even trying to send a friend some money if you need to do it like right now, right? And then imagine trying to scale that to the masses. Like it's not going to work. So maybe Bitcoin will stick around as a store of value. Like that's very possible, but it would have to really just be a store of value. And XRP also does that, right? It's just as much a store of value as Bitcoin is, especially when you take into consideration how expensive the asset has to be in order to facilitate these cross-border payments. So it's able to send any amount of money, whether it be $10, $1 million, $10 billion, $1 trillion, anywhere in the world in 2 to 4 seconds as a settlement, right? So this
Wow.
is where they're talking about like replacing the SWIFT
Yeah.
cross-border payment system, which is the kind of archaic old railroads of the banking system from the 70s. And that system doesn't even settle payments. It just messages the banks and tells each other how much they owe each other, and then they have to settle that on their own private, system, basically. So this is like a public, decentralized settlement system that's permissionless, which means anybody has access to it. You don't have to get permission from a bank or any other group to be able to own and use XRP.
Mhm.
Um, Buying it can be, that's where with crypto, that's where the governments and these various, agencies can put their chokehold on it through the on ramps and off ramps into and out of crypto, which is like with the Canadian trucker rally, like we were talking about. That's where they sought to do that. They shut down the crypto exchanges, but they couldn't shut down the crypto wallets and transactions. And they actually lied about it. I think there was a tweet from one of the Canadian government groups that was saying that they were working on shutting down wallets, which
Mhm.
is literally impossible. Like they cannot shut down wallets, but they wanted to make people scared
Yeah,
and
yeah.
think
Wow.
that they could. So yeah, I think it's geared up to be this form of value, this bridge currency, so that you can send pretty much anything anywhere in the world quantumly, if you will. And the analogy that I give with gold is, or silver or anything, is if you have a bar of gold and you want to send it to your friend in the UK or Europe or China or whatever it be, right now, the fastest way to do that would be to get on a plane and fly it there, which is pretty crazy, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And even just within the US to move, money from East Coast to West Coast, the fastest way to do it is to get a bag of cash and fly it. It's 3 to 5 days for the traditional bank to bank transfer. Um, so imagine being able to go to your local bank and you take your bar of gold and you go to your local like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, and you give them your gold and you say, okay, I want to send this to my friend Joe in England. And so they'll take that bar of gold, they will put it in their reserves. They will then translate or transfer trade that gold into digital gold, right? It'll be the same value. And then that digital gold, they'll instantly swap into XRP. Then they'll send that XRP to your friend's receiving bank in England. they will receive that in 2 to 4 seconds, and then they will liquidate that into digital gold and then into physical gold that they would then hold in their reserves.
It's
So this
incredible.
is where the banks could still have, a lot of people are like, we don't need banks at all, which eventually I think, yeah, but they will still hold a purpose in the sense of being actual reserves instead of
Mhm.
just being kind of systems of enslavement where right now we know there'd be a run on the bank if everyone went and tried to pull their money out because they don't actually have the reserves for all that they're saying they have. So
Right.
XRP solves a lot of these problems.
Yeah, it's incredible how quickly it can go, and that you can actually be your own bank. You could be you could like to move physical bar gold like that is incredible.
It
The
is.
thought
I
process.
didn't, go through my mind and do all the steps the way that you just did, but that's pretty impressive. It's
Yeah,
kind of interesting that that would be, and you're right, you can see a space for banking, at least, in the beginning
Yeah.
for how the transition like that would work and
Mhm.
people getting used to seeing it and the value of having that ability to do that for, each other.
Yeah.
And then who knows where, it could go from there. But yeah,
And
that's pretty
before we
interesting.
get off this too, I mean this interview, I want to make sure we just talk a little bit about the passive income that could be made
Mhm.
because a lot of people don't realize they think you just have to hold your crypto and just wait. And if it don't happen in 4 months, wait longer. If it don't happen here, wait longer. But there is a way to make passive income. So
Yeah.
definitely we'll definitely get into that. So remind me before we get into that. But what I wanted to ask you is, with the current market conditions today,
Mhm.
what cryptos right now do you believe have the most potential to grow, say within the short term, let's say within the next 2 years
Mhm.
or whatever? I know, there's no, guarantees or timeframes, but that you see that can have real significant growth because they may be related to the Ripple platform in some way, helping maybe XRP push faster or better or whatever it may be. What do you see out there
Yeah.
if you had to say, a couple that you would look at?
Yeah, good question. So, what in our program in Conscious Crypto, we focus primarily on the payments assets. So there
Mhm.
is a lot of different niches of assets out there. There's AI, there's gaming,
Yeah.
there's privacy assets, meaning like, everything is private and not visible, whereas most assets, everything is traceable and public, which, there's pros and cons to that. But the ones that we focus on are the payments ones because those are the ones people, the people like us, the people that are on their awakening path seem to being guided to, I think, because they're the ones that are going to produce the biggest return of investment because they're solving the biggest problems in terms of, cross-border payments and all these other money issues. And that
Mhm.
means billions, if not trillions of dollars will be flowing into many of these assets. So XRP obviously is the main focus. Another really popular one we focus on is Stellar XLM.
Mhm.
So this was a kind of a sister project to XRP. It's like XRP and XLM are kind of brother sister in that way, in the sense that one of the co-founders of Ripple, which is the private company that is sort of the largest developer for XRP. So just to kind of give this context too, cryptos have various degrees of decentralization in both their validation as well as the way that the currency itself is dispersed and like who has what holdings kind of thing. And so when it comes to XRP, that Ripple is not the creator of XRP because XRP actually predated Ripple.
Yeah.
The guys got together, made XRP, and then later they made Ripple as the company to kind of manage their private holdings of XRP and then to create the mass adoption of it to actually go to the banks and make these various contracts as a private entity.
Mhm.
XRP itself is not private though. And so one of these Ripple co-founders went and created Stellar. Officially, they had a falling out. I think there might be more going on there in terms of the game of chess that's being played on this level of financial and spiritual warfare. But Stellar is kind of that sister company. XLM is the asset under Stellar, and you can kind of see. It seems to me that like XRP is being more geared for the back end, bank to bank, country to country, large asset transfers that the average everyday person will probably never be involved in. Like my guess is that most people in 2, 5, 10 years will not own XRP because it'll be used for the big money and it won't be very accessible. I think the liquidity is going to dry up on these exchanges and people literally, I think, won't be able to buy it because it'll be in such high demand.
Mm.
And in the other respect, XLM is kind of the retail side of that. So XLM is the one that might be more used by the average everyday person for merchants and retail and that kind of stuff, but also has very similar capabilities. They're pretty much identical technologies.
Hmm.
Um, so those are the two main ones. And then we have a couple of other ones that are in the ecosystem of that. So another one that I really like that is not very well known is called Stronghold, SHX. And Stronghold is kind of the bridge between Ripple and Stellar. So they have, so they're a private company that is already successful as a private company doing merchant type services, and they have their crypto that's being brought in to be adopted into that system. So that's kind of different than most other cryptos, which are more of a startup idea where it's like, hey, this is what we want to do with our crypto. We will do this, this, and this, buy our crypto and we'll end up, creating this system. What's cool about Stronghold and also Ripple and Stellar is they're already like functioning businesses, and then the cryptocurrencies are like an extension of that. So they're more established.
Right, right. Yeah, that's good.
And
Wow.
and
That's good.
Stronghold is specifically they seem to be going after the ACH payment rails in the United States and internationally too. And so I think that they are going to be one of those assets that uh, I think they're going to kind of take over the Square and the Clover and the PayPal of the financial world. I see them replacing that or synthesizing into those systems. And you remember how quickly those things took over, like how quickly Square and now Clover is kind of the new one that you see everywhere with the little screen and they ask for a tip and everything. I
Yeah.
feel like the Stronghold is going to very quickly become the next version of that. And then they have a lot of funding and financial ties with both Ripple and Stellar. So that's what we kind of look at too, is like follow the money. And where we kind of learn to do that in the negative sense of follow the money of where all the big bankers are putting
Right,
their
right.
stuff. So in the positive sense, like where is Ripple investing? Where is Stellar investing? Where are they putting their energy? And Stronghold is one of those.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. And there's a lot of guys are coming out now, on the stock market side, when they talk
Mhm.
about, like AI and stuff like that. So instead of like, Nvidia or
Mhm.
Nvidia, whatever, they're like
Yeah,
the,
yeah,
the biggest company now.
yeah.
But instead of buying that stock, since it shot up, they're looking at the same thing. Like, what does it need? What mechanisms does it need in smaller companies that are making maybe a small fuse or whatever that the AI is going to need to actually perform? And so it's
Mm,
interesting that they have this type of, it's the same thing, except with all the benefits that come with crypto,
mhm.
being, decentralized and everything else and all the growth, since it's a far newer, you know,
Yeah.
uh, project or plan out there. So,
Mhm.
um, but yeah, thank you for that. So just to follow up on that, when, because it is a volatile market, right? We're going ups and downs, and because people aren't as educated on it, they think it takes on far more risk than the normal investment, right? So, but with that, what are some ways that you can mitigate your risk, or you can kind of put things in place as safety levers?
Well, so there is both investment risk, but then there's also like personal responsibility and storage risk. So we can kind of touch on both of those. I think you're
Yes.
more getting at investment risk.
Yeah, but
Uh,
both are good. Both are
yeah.
good. That's the security of it. Yeah.
So like I think when it comes to any investment, it's less risky to have a portfolio of different currencies. So that's where I like to look at, all these different cryptos. And I tend to take the more risky approach uh, because I think it was Warren Buffett, or I'm pretty sure it was Warren Buffett that said something along the lines of you should have only really three investments versus like 30, because if you find three that you really believe in, you don't need to have 30 different ones. Those are just kind of extras that aren't probably going to be as profitable as the three that are really going to be effective.
Mhm.
And that's kind of how I feel, and that's why we focused on these payment ones and these assets that, I'm watching different people feel guidance and have dreams to investing in. Um, but you can always, diversify. So I used to hold more, but I've kind of consolidated to like 4 or 5 cryptocurrencies. So for me, that's XRP, XLM, Stronghold, Solo, Corium, and Flare are the main ones. Um, and that's what I would say would be the biggest way to mitigate risk investment wise, and to just do your research and follow your heart with it, because I think that's really important too. Like,
You know what? You know
especially,
what? You know what
yeah.
happens too? So not to
What?
interrupt you, but it's almost like, I never thought I'd play golf. And I went with my father to play golf. I got the golf bug and I
Yeah.
bought 1,700 golf clubs because every time I just saw something new, I just, you get that thing. And it could be the same thing with crypto. Once you kind of get the feel for it,
Yeah.
I had like between, Peppy and Bonk and
Oh
Turbo.
yeah, yeah.
I had a bunch of these little ones
Yeah.
you start to go into like, and I had like 14, 15 of them, but it was fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to do. But I think what I started to do though, after, they moved a little bit and I started to consolidate, in where I had my set like five, always
Mhm.
like the core, like I said, the Corium, Sologenic and
Yeah.
XRP. But I had a couple of extras, but it was so funny. I realized I was like, holy shit, holy crap. When I looked at the list, it was getting so big. It was like,
Yeah.
I had like 1450. I was like, holy, I gotta stop buying some of these.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
But
and some people will say, that's better. I mean, it's I don't know about with meme coins, because meme coins are definitely more of like a gambling thing. And
yeah,
but I think it's a better approach if say you have a gambling addiction or you love gambling, like maybe try doing some meme coin cryptos instead, because
yeah,
I think it can be safer than gambling. At least there is it's more of a natural free market than gambling, which is often, rigged in the favor of the casino.
all you gotta
Believe
do is
us,
hit one of them.
we live in
I
Yeah,
live in
Vegas.
that's
Vegas.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Born
So
and
you know all
raised
about
here.
that.
I know.
So
Yeah.
she's happy to keep me out of the casino, but then I was on, and Turbo did good.
Yeah. Yeah, well, like the meme coins are a whole thing within themselves. They're fun, and a lot of people have made a lot of money on meme coins, so that's one of those kind of things that, you have to be pretty educated and like follow, these projects with the
Mhm.
meme ones in particular to be able to ride the wave. And I have not been very fortunate in the respect of investing in meme coins and some of these other projects. Like every time that I've tried to kind of go in that more gambling risk approach, I end up losing money. So it's brought me back to just like the fundamentals and like
Yeah.
sticking with that, with the ones that I know are like set up for, success.
Success. Yeah. And that's the
Yeah.
best. That's the best way to go. And it's going to be tried. That's going to be the one, like, I think over time it will be tried and true. And over a period of time, you will definitely, I think see the rewards of that. But
Yep.
it definitely, if it happened to me, I know it's going to happen to other people where you get the bug and you stuck. Cause I was reading, I hate to read. I
Yeah.
was reading on so many, I was getting confused in gaming and then shipping and then in all these different areas. I just
Yeah.
thought it was so interesting that all these, industries that are in this, I just didn't think it was that big.
Yeah, it's
So
like
Yeah.
discovering a whole new layer
yeah,
of, you know, all of these businesses that you didn't realize kind of had dipped their toe into these things too. It's like
Yeah.
almost like tentacles, you can go
Yeah.
down any of those rabbit
but
holes.
but with that being said, though, if you are looking at going into something new, what are some of like the metrics or indications that you look for to go like, if I'm gonna step out
Mhm.
on my your four girlfriends, right? The XRP and
Yeah.
if you're gonna step out, what do you look for and go like this can be a good shot or maybe a good compliment, but these are the metrics I look for.
Yeah, so the first thing would be, first, I follow my intuition. That's like my guiding force. So I will go where I feel guided. I'll get like kind of a ping. I know not everybody gets that. So, to each their own with that part. But then for me, I kind of see it as the masculine and feminine. So my feminine will just wait and receive information. I go, okay, that one seems interesting. I'm going
Mhm.
to do research on that. And I'll kind of go more into my masculine, like you're saying, start doing all this research, start following the money, start seeing who's connected to who invested in this, what are the angel investors in this project and all that stuff. And then when I find a synthesis of those, that's when I know like, a project is golden. And then
Okay.
I'll also look for how early I am in the project, because that's where most of the money is to be made in crypto, is finding these things before everyone else figures it out and
Mhm.
before they're listed on the big exchanges. So that's another tip, is
Mhm.
like what we do is we look for these projects that fit those bills, and then okay, are they already listed on the big crypto websites that everyone has access to, which would be Coinbase, crypto.com, blah blah blah. Most of the assets that we focus on are not yet on these larger exchanges, so they still have this huge exposure to move into.
Mhm.
And find that when they get listed, which basically means, when these larger platforms decide to bring them on and sell them to the public,
Mhm.
that's when there's more eyes on them. That's when the average person who is not diving as deep into all the research finds out about it and is able to invest in it. And then the price usually almost always goes up just from that exposure.
The
So
buying
being
pressure.
early is key. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's smart. All right. And then, just really to touch on, just to get back to the security part of it. Um, I had an experience with that as well. But the security of making sure it's safe.
Hmm.
You're going to have it and not have a company take care of it.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Yeah. So basically, when you go to buy cryptocurrency, most of the time you're buying it on one of these exchanges that, like we're talking about, Coinbase, crypto.com, Uphold, whatever it be, Kraken, Gemini, there's like a million of them. When you buy it from them, they automatically hold the crypto for you. And so you want to set up what's called a private wallet if you want to have full sovereignty of your cryptocurrency, if you want to hold it yourself. And this is one of the things that sets apart crypto from stocks,
Yeah.
is the self custody is what they call it, which is the ultimate responsibility. It's kind of like in Spider-Man when Uncle Ben says like with more power comes more responsibility, right? So like you hold the crypto on a private wallet, which you touched on earlier, basically makes you your own bank in the sense that it's all you. Like you're given a set of these private passwords that they call seed phrase or secret keys. And it's basically a big, number or a bunch of words that you write down depending on the type of wallet. And anybody that has access to that can access your funds. Anybody that doesn't have access can't access your funds. And that was the big thing with the Canadian trucker rally, was they shut down those public exchanges for those accounts. And also in the case of like the FTX collapse,
Mm.
which you guys probably are familiar with, that was for the people that haven't heard of that, that was the Sam Bankman-Fried guy who was like, touted as the youngest, smartest billionaire in the world. He was like 29-year-old multi-billionaire, definitely being set up and kind of a figurehead and being funded by all these different groups. They ended up, finding that money from FTX was being sent to Ukraine and then funneled back to the Democrat and Republican parties, politicians with both. So just a big web of corruption. But anyway, a lot of people lost a lot of money in that because they had their money on these public exchanges. So basically, in their terms and conditions, just like with a bank, if they go bankrupt, they are able to, in some cases, use that as bailout money, or just like, you might never see it again. And so one of the first things that we'll teach you how to do in Conscious Crypto is pulling that out so that you can get it on a private wallet, which is trying to see if I have one accessible right here. This is one brand called a Trezor. The more popular one is called a Ledger. Another one that I really like is called the Descent Wallet. That one's my favorite. And they're basically like little devices. Some of them look like little thumb drives. They're different shapes and sizes, but mostly something that fits in the palm of your hand. Some have screens, some don't. And that's where you can store them, that it's totally yours and where you become your own bank. But at the same time, you have to be more responsible with it, because if you end up losing those secret keys, those passwords, you might not be able to get access to your funds again. There's no like third party that you can call. There's no like company you can call up and be like, "Hey, I lost my funds. Like, do punch some numbers on the screen, give them back to me." So more sovereignty, but more responsibility.
Yeah.
Um, do you feel like any of those exchanges are safer than others? Are there some that you feel like you wouldn't work with and others that you feel more comfortable?
If you had asked me that like 2 years ago, I was more opinionated about it because specifically because of the Ripple SEC lawsuit that was going on. And several, actually, the majority of the exchanges in the United States decided to delist access to XRP. So the only one that you could get XRP on was Uphold. So that was the one that was my personal favorite at the time. But
Yeah.
since then, now that that lawsuit is over, pretty much all those exchanges have relisted XRP again. You could pretty much get it anywhere. I don't really discriminate or have too much of a bias to any of them. I've actually started to like Uphold a little bit less, and Coinbase a little bit more. Recently the CEO of Uphold came out and endorsed Kamala Harris, so that was like something that I was like, ooh, you
Yeah.
know, that's
Red
I don't
flag.
know, yeah, what's going on there?
Yeah.
Um, but in general, if you have to hold it on the exchanges, Coinbase to me seems like one of the more trustworthy ones, basically just because they're the most established and like kind of have a lot of user, interface and have kind of gone through a lot of the bugs
Hmm.
the smaller ones have yet to maybe go through. But in general, I think that it's best to just use them as an in and out and then transfer to your wallet. So
Yeah.
just get it, transfer it to your wallet, and then it doesn't really matter where you're
Right.
getting it from because you're not going to store it on there.
And that's the best way to do it. And just for, the people out there too, they know there because there is such a large influx of money in crypto, and because it's decentralized, like you're saying, so you just can't call somebody.
Mhm.
There's a lot of scams out there too. So you want to be very protective of when you do move it to your decent or Trezor, that you very much know, even if you're looking for customer support, where
Mhm.
you're getting it on the computer, because you can be siphoned off. There's a lot going on, just like the bank. People, they go after bank accounts too all the time. So it's very important to keep your information protected, and that's what he's saying is the best way to do it, and you want to be cognizant of that.
Yeah, and speaking of scammers, I'm glad you brought that up because the scammers are getting super creative in just they approach it from so many different angles now. Oftentimes they will pretend to be someone that you trust. Like I have scammers impersonating my Instagram account, my Telegram account that message people with my profile picture and my name, and they're like, "Hey, how's your investing going?" Like and then they try to get you to either transfer your funds or set up a security wallet or a quantum financial system wallet. They use a lot of these buzzwords that people, when they're doing research, are finding, and then they'll use it against you. So when it comes to protecting yourself against scammers, never give out your secret keys to anyone. And, always, if you're in doubt, go to someone, whether it's me or someone else that can kind of guide you and, give you a little more context on like if something is legit or not. And also there's scams that are just really silly, like, hey, send us your XRP and we'll send you back twice as much.
Yeah,
Those kind of scams are literally on YouTube as sponsored ads, which
Wow.
is crazy. That and they still, to my knowledge, have not taken them down on like YouTube and X
wow.
are the main platforms I've seen where they will have like an AI like voice over the CEO of Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse, and he's talking about like, hey, we're doing a bonus airdrop. Send us your XRP. And the fact that they're sponsored ads makes me think that there's something going on with
Hold
those
on. Yeah,
companies
Yeah.
that they're trying to do
that's not cool.
some dirty business there.
Do you think that if you had to talk to, like, if you were talking to you when you were first starting, with that, is that the best advice that you would give, or what do you wish you would have known, or somebody would have told you when you were first starting in this? What piece of advice do you wish you had?
For me, probably to not attempt leverage trading, which is when you basically can take a certain amount and these exchanges will allow you to 10x, 50x, even 100x your funds, which means if it goes up, it'll be 10, 50, 100x of whatever you put in. So you could put in, $100 and have it be $1,000 hypothetically. But if it goes the other way, you can get liquidated and lose that all in like a second.
Yeah, I
And
tried that too.
yeah, I think everyone feels the temptation because they're like, oh, and especially with these assets, you're like, it seems like it's going to be going up. And then, the other thing is like the markets are rigged, for good or for bad, they're manipulated. And I think that there are AI trading bots, among other things, that are keeping prices at a certain place. There could be both good and bad factors playing into that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, even for experienced traders, like a lot of them come to crypto and they realize it's like a whole different
Yeah.
beast. So I would say stick in it for the long term, play the long term game. Don't try to mess around too much with the short term, quick money, because most of the time it's going to end up biting you in the butt.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good
that's good.
advice.
Smart.
Um, Most people, when they're starting in crypto, they're doing it because they're attracted to the possibility of having the financial freedom stuff. Everybody's got an idea of what it is that they would do. What is it that's motivating you? What if you get to the place where you feel like this is exactly where I was hoping I'd be? What are you doing? What are you doing at that point?
There's a couple of different things, but primarily what's calling to me the most is building community for like-minded souls. So I feel like so many of us, we're all in different parts of the world, which is, probably for a reason right now to be able to hold down the light in those areas, so to say. But I feel like so many people are feeling this longing for their tribe. And I feel like that's what crypto is going to let us do. And what I'm feeling really called to do with it is to start creating these communities, these cities, these new earth templates of what a society can be. And I think more and more, that's what I'm feeling is kind of the galactic purpose of it, more so than to try to go to war with the banking system or to overthrow the banking system. Like my guides have been kind of showing me recently. So I didn't grow up Christian or anything, but I've been kind of connecting more with the spirit of Jesus and like his teachings and the embodiment of that. And one of the things that they were showing me was like Jesus did not seek to overthrow the Romans, right? And I watched The Chosen recently, which helped me like really connect with that. Great show.
Yeah.
And in The Chosen, they make it really apparent that like Judas was the one that was like, why aren't we gonna take on the Romans? Like, what, Jesus, when are you gonna take down the Romans and flip the oppression and like take our land back and all this? And he was always like, that's not what it's about. It's about the inner journey. It's not about, going to war or overthrowing anything external.
Mm-hmm.
So applying that to crypto, I was seeing it more as basically it's going to give us these tools to create these pockets of higher density, higher dimensional, higher consciousness um, activation areas that, whatever happens in the world and the chaos that may or not play out, like I hope everything goes in as smooth a timeline as possible. And I hope that there is like, a global awakening that really permeates through everyone and that it's super smooth and nothing crazy happens. But at the same time, I think it's possible that there will be parts of the world that fall deeper into chaos. But at the same time, there's going to be these other areas that I think we're going to have a part in building that are going to be able to keep moving on in our conscious evolution despite whatever the rest of the world is doing. And that's kind of that like bifurcation principle that a lot of people have talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big part of it for me. And then also bringing forward the advanced technologies, free energy, UFO type, anti-gravity technologies, the stuff that I kind of got my start in aerospace engineering that inspired me. Being able to like bring that out and fund those kind of things really inspires me.
And do you think that
Incredible.
um with XRP, the payment system can be interstellar? Is that I?
Yes.
That's what okay, because that's what I was reading that, and I thought that was really interesting. I didn't know if that was like far-fetched or if but
Yeah.
that's really interesting.
I
I
love
think
what you're,
that
yeah, go ahead.
I think that it really could help enable an intergalactic kind of commerce situation. Even in the sense like, even if we're not talking about ETs and other, groups like that, if we start colonizing other planets like Elon's trying to do, or if we make a base on the moon and we start kind of, arguably, I think we're already there in many of these
Mhm.
places, as we know.
Yeah.
But as the public discovers that more and more, with say the civilizations on Mars and on the moon, we're going to have an economy that flows between all those. And so I think XRP and these other cryptos are the perfect way, like we were talking about with the gold analogy, to be
Mhm.
able to take physical things and kind of make them more quantum in the way that they're able to move value. And then in the galactic sense, I do think that this technology was seeded here
Mhm.
through most likely the higher selves, or through telepathic thought, whatever it be, to these people that created these cryptos,
Mhm.
and that these are blueprints or schematics that other civilizations of various consciousness levels have also grown into in their money systems. So in that respect, like one of the things that I like to think about is, when it comes to like say the secret space program and things of this sort, um, the idea of like a Star Trek what do they call it? The replicator, like the 3D printing,
Yeah, yeah.
like the ability, like scarcity going away completely, right? That we don't like we could hypothetically 3D print gold and we could have all these things, food, and all of a sudden no more scarcity. But then we're still going to have value that needs transferring, right? And that's mostly going to be in human value, artistic value, things that humans are unique in what we're going to be able to create, like our time and our energy spent with other people.
Mhm.
And I think one day, yeah, we will probably grow beyond a financial system. Who knows how far in the future? Maybe thousands of years, maybe less, maybe more. But I think that this will allow us to have this a system of trade within an economy where resource scarcity no longer exists, where now you have artificial scarcity in a good way in terms of these cryptos, where there's a finite amount of these coins. In most cases, there's actually deflation with XRP and a lot of these other assets. There's every transaction has a micro fee that is burned, less
Mhm.
than a penny, and so that creates like this kind of artificial scarcity where now we can exchange in these various forms of non-physical value
Mhm.
in that civilization. So yeah,
It's
it's cool to think
it's
about.
like almost limitless when you
Yeah,
start to think of it, and the things that we haven't thought about already that will come to light that we can do is going to be pretty interesting. If this is already kind of
yeah.
in our perceived field already, I mean, what can be? So,
And then
Yeah,
there's
go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I love the way that you're envisioning what this can look like. And if
yeah.
more and more people can hear this information and kind of start to perceive, this is a possibility, we
Hmm.
can actually kind of catapult forward and move into that space. And I'm excited to see what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Absolutely.
possibilities are really limitless because at the end of the day, money is just an energy. It's just an extension of our intelligent field in the way that we interact with other versions of ourselves, with other people, and other things. So it's like a way to purify that money system, which you've probably heard the term like Babylonian money magic system, right? In terms of like the all-seeing eye on the dollar and money being used for slavery and the kind of energetic occult magic behind that.
Mhm.
Another interesting thing that I found is when I started using the value or like storing more of my value, my financial value in cryptocurrency over like the US dollar, for instance, it's like that was kind of a white magic within itself, and that like other opportunities started manifesting and like it just seemed to create this like ripple effect, no pun intended, that had this effect beyond money. It was like an energy field that was more pure than the old money system, which like unlocked something within my own field that allowed me to have like a more abundant interaction with the world,
Mhm.
which is just
I
so
think you're
interesting.
right. Yeah, when we have more crypto than we
That
have
makes sense.
cash, that's actually true. It kind of
Yeah,
seemed like it started to
but
unfold
when you look
different.
at all the negative energy that's associated with the dollar, with the corruption, with that energy that comes along with it,
Yeah.
to move to a system that's more freeing and sovereign. Everyone has their own sovereignty, but it's still working together as a community to help push up and kind of not hold down. That energy's got to, without a doubt, take a piece of you or give you pieces or abundance and moving
Yeah.
forward. So I think that, yeah, that's a really, it's an enlightened way to look at it.
You wanted to talk about passive income because we're going
Yes,
Yeah.
into
I know we're
another.
going. Yeah, I know
Yeah,
we're getting close. I was thinking about that. That's why
go
I
ahead.
probably. So yeah, so if you could just passive income with some of the, especially I know with the solargenic or corium has something you were
Mm.
talking about, but also
Yeah.
staking or whatever you think is, you know,
Worthwhile.
general.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So like with when you hold money in the bank, you'll get like a little bit of interest every year, right? 1%, 2%, 3, 4. But like with inflation, it kind of just cancels it out at the end of the day. So usually it's negative
Right.
when you take that into consideration. So with crypto, well, there's various ways to generate passive income. There's actually a whole subset of crypto technology that's called decentralized finance, or DeFi for short. And this is, Trump Jr. actually brought this up to the world recently because they're talking about launching a DeFi platform that is going to help people who don't want to work with the banks and who aren't able to get banked, like him, who he said he's not able to use the main banks, he can't get insurance, all this stuff. So as the discrimination and the chokehold of financial oppression tightens, the need for a new system emerges more and more. And so DeFi is kind of is a broad spectrum where many different forms of generating passive income are possible. So the most popular one that you mentioned, staking, is basically just decentralized interest generation.
okay.
So proof of stake is one of the types of consensus technologies that cryptocurrency uses. And if you guys, the viewers, if they end up joining Conscious Crypto, like we'll teach you all about this kind of stuff. We'll break it down, easy to understand ways. But basically, by participating in the consensus of the network, by putting your energy into it and being a part of the consensus of the validation of these transactions, you get paid as a reward. So, depending on the project, some of these rewards they pay out in different ways. So, some of them come from a slight inflationary mechanism where there's inflation, but it's kept in check by like a system of checks and balances, so to say, where it can't spiral out of control. Other ones are done through other various means. There's also things called yield farming and
Mm.
liquidity pools, which are where you put your assets into a public area, like a liquidity pool, for instance. You would put two assets into one of these liquidity pools. And anytime those two assets get traded between each other by anyone else, which is all random. It's not like choose who is doing this. It's just, part of a big random selection.
Right.
Anytime someone trades between that, you get paid out a percentage of the fee that they pay for that trade.
Wow.
So that's one mechanism. And then like Corium, you were talking about that runs on a proof of staking mechanism. So like that one right now does around 25% APY, which is annual percentage yield. And that's before you take into consideration compounding interest. So what's really cool about this too is like compounding interest has typically been used against us, with credit card agencies and banks and everything. We end up being slaves to compounding interest, but now we get to use it for us to work in our favor. And so, for instance, with Corium, one of the things that's really cool is that you have they call them micro payments, but it would be like a micro yield where you can go in and you can claim your rewards all day, every day if you wanted to. Like, I don't think that's necessarily a good use of people's time, but like as opposed to getting, a payout once a year or once a month or on some kind of schedule, you
Mhm.
can literally go just into your phone app and click claim however often you want. And as long as you're claiming that more than once a year, it's going to be compounding that interest and you could end up getting several more percent on top of, whatever the given
Wow,
percentage is. Yeah.
that's
And that's
Amazing.
awesome.
going to translate to like in the workforce too, like micropayments instead of getting a paycheck. I think this is all going to run on blockchain in the future, and people will get literally paid every second, every microsecond that they're doing their work, and it's just constantly hitting their wallet. And then if they're then staking that or applying some kind of passive income mechanism, then they're getting compounding interest that's just lining up every second.
That's
Wow,
exciting.
that's yeah. Yeah, no, I remember when you were first talking about it, when I first started to learn about it from you, and it was like I was like, how that's because nothing
Yeah.
pays that,
Yeah, we
Yeah.
really need
That's awesome.
to reiterate that we really learned a lot going to
Yeah,
his academy. It was
yeah. And the one thing
definitely
I had
worthwhile.
a
Thank
background
you.
on from Wall Street, and so the way that it was laid out, and I was before I joined the academy.
Mhm.
I literally was, she knows, I was clueless. She kept telling me, why don't
I
you
was
learn?
buying it, but I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't know what I was doing either. I just had like this Coinbase thing and I was buying it and I kept telling him, we're both from banking and we both did like financial advisor type stuff. He was like had more licenses than I did, but that's what we both did.
Mhm.
And we were in banking and anyway, so coming from that side of it, but trying to go into this, we had no clue. And I kept telling him, if you would just learn this, like we'll be really good because I don't know and I'm trying to get us something, but just learn it. And as soon as he did it, and
Yeah,
it
well,
just
you
went
know what
like
it is?
this for us.
I looked
Nice.
on my own because I just figured I would be able to, like everything else, if I look at it, I understand everything pretty much pretty quickly, right? And it just wasn't connecting
Gelling,
for me
yeah.
for some reason. And I couldn't understand it. So I was like, so I just kind of stood away. But the way your program is, it's so step by step.
Yeah, it's good.
And it's nice. It's videos that are interesting and they're they're quick
Compelling. It's
and
like
yeah, and you can actually everything just lines up. You did a great job, and for anyone out there that is really looking to
learn.
learn and be sovereign over your own assets and really to write it into the future and protect yourself and your families and stuff, take a look at what he's doing at Conscious Crypto Academy because there is nothing else like it out there. And I looked at a bunch of different, places too, and by I mean it's not even close. And really, what I'm looking at the microphone, I don't know, but it really is. I was really, but really,
Thank
it's
you.
he does it in a great way, and I can't say it enough because I'm very grateful that
Yeah.
Alexis had talked to you
Mhm.
about it, and we were able to meet you and go through this. So, thank you for everything you do and putting your heart out there like you do. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
it's got that
Thank
feeling
you
to
guys.
it. You feel like you're in good hands and with somebody who's got a really good intention. So we're really grateful to you and
It's
appreciate.
great to see young people that are like this.
That's what I was telling Alexis is, there's a lot of people that are our age. We're in our 50s. We're
Mid, not you. She's 25.
we're 2 months apart. We're 2 months apart.
Yeah.
We're
Oh
50,
wow, that's cool.
we're 53. But there's a lot of people who don't listen, I don't think, enough to young people. And
Mm.
I that's who I that's all I listen to. Everybody that I'm listening to is like in their
Yeah.
late 20s to late 30s. And I am learning so much
Yeah.
and I feel like growing all the time. There's this whole swath of people that have come onto the planet and people like us, we need to listen and catch up because
Yeah.
there's so much information you guys have to bestow upon us. And I'm excited and grateful. So
And that's why if you get off the traditional, like the mainstream media and all that stuff, all they do is show the young people who are doing just
yeah, they're like
dumb things that don't make sense, and it turns people
our
our
age.
age that are watching the same thing, going, "What is going on with this generation?" But
Yeah.
if you can remove yourself and get into some of this non-traditional stuff. Yeah, people like you and you're right, and Alexis,
Yeah.
and although and we're looking, going, look at the talent that is coming through. That it's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm very hopeful
Me
for
I
too.
the
think
future.
that's going to keep continuing too, because I'm looking at the generation coming up now, Gen Z, and that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, oh my God, you guys are so much more like magical. Like
Mhm.
as time goes on, these new kids,
Yeah.
I have so much hope too that things are really gonna get better and better, despite all the perceived chaos in the world that they want us to focus on.
Yep.
The harmony is quickly exponentially increasing in all these, new generations that are coming in, and the codes and everything that they're bringing through with
Yeah.
them. It's
I
crazy.
Yeah,
agree.
and more and more exposure. I think this is going to be great. But I really enjoyed the conversation,
And
and thank you.
tell us what you've got coming up for you.
Yeah.
Like, what are you working on next, or what are you doing?
Hmm. Well, I'm going to be kind of changing the model of Conscious Crypto Academy a little bit. I won't say how exactly because I'm still kind of figuring it out, but it'll still be there. It's gonna, I'm gonna be making it even better than it was before.
Mhm.
And then there are some things that I'm working on outside of crypto that I haven't really announced yet, but that I'm putting together that are more in alignment with like the spiritual side of things and what we can do to kind of basically prepare for this ascension process that we're going through and how we can become more in harmony with that and the community thing. So like that's really my big goal that I'm waiting for, whether it's through crypto, which is how I think it'll be, but if something comes along sooner, then I'm open to that too. But
Mhm.
being able to start building these communities so that we can like get the tribe together in whatever form, get the
Yeah,
families together
that's
Yeah.
and
my
like
thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds just
That's
like
my
what.
motivation for sure. And
yeah.
I'm with you on that. So I'm excited to see what you do. And we're really grateful that you came today and talked to us and taught us. Thank you.
Yeah, we
Thank you guys for
appreciate your
having me on.
time, man. It was great.
Yeah.
And
Thank you
stay on
guys.
because I was writing notes. So I'm just gonna we're gonna say
Cool.
bye to everybody, but don't go anyway.
Sounds good.
Thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you.